Hafa day, everybody. Welcome back to D16 Tonight. Joining us now are Sean Gumatauto and Ron McNinch. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Hey, good evening.
All right.
Well, it looks like the candidates are pretty much set for the primary election, and I wanted to talk to you, Ron, about a speech that you had you presented a few weeks ago before the Rotary Club of Guam, and you talked specifically about the incumbents and the likelihood that they'll see a return after the November general election. And I wanted you to explain a little bit more about that, and Sean, get your reaction. Do you agree?
Certainly. You know, in order to get elected, people have to know you, and there are three types of candidates. There are incumbents, viables, and then there are vanity candidates, people who just put their name out there. This election, we're going to have 3 or 4 vanity candidates. We can kind of like set them aside. But of the viable candidates, the incumbents are the best positioned, and they have the best known names. And we'll probably only see maybe 1 to 3, I think, kind of be rotated out. And we'll see 1 to 3 new faces, maybe 4 new faces at the outset or the outside angle. But you know, incumbents really have it made in this election. It's a non-governor's race election, and the incumbents have the earned media factor. They write a bill, they get on TV. They have a lot of advantages that a lot of these newcomers don't.
Yeah, traditionally the midterms don't yield very many new faces into the Guam legislature. I think it's, when we can go back and look at historically, that the midterms, if there's any opportunity, like Ron said, there might be 2 or 3 that might sneak in, and with only in the primary, with only 5 seats or 5 people that are not going to go forward, it's going to kind of wait and see who the quality of those 5 that are coming out will impact going into the general election.
Okay, you talk about the incumbents, they pretty much had it made, but there's been a lot of talk, a lot of controversy about the raises that senators voted. No impact? No, why?
It's hate the legislature, love your senator, and and the old saw is love your congressman, hate the Congress. And so what happens is we have 15 individuals who are all members of a legislature, and people like their individual guys or gals, but they don't like the legislature in general. And so because they're like a herd or a school of fish, it's hard to pinpoint and attack any one of them very easily.
And then the dynamic will also, when we think about the new folks, are they talking about, hey, I'm not going to go in there and raise my salary? Are they having any dialogue that's going to change the focus of maybe their issues? Not likely going to have a huge impact on the final numbers on election day.
And you still maintain that position even though there's that possibility that there may be this initiative on the ballot?
I think people could care less about it. I mean, we've surveyed it. We've talked to people. People didn't like the retro pay. The pay raises themselves, it's no big deal. There is one other quick point I'd like to make, and that is the traditional generators for good, strong new candidates, we don't have them anymore. For example, if you look at who was in the Constitutional Convention back in 77 to 1979, that really generated a lot of good leadership and potential leaders, and we don't have that anymore. We don't have these big activities to really create prominent places for new names, and I think Guam should take a look at that. The other thing is going from 21 to 15 has killed new candidates, because when there was 21, new faces would come and go all the time, but with 15 they hunker down in the middle and they don't go anywhere.
Yeah, and also the quality of candidate. I mean, I think we've seen a shift. I mean, we're seeing quality, might be quality in the mayoral races, which I think won't get as much attention as the legislature, but the quality of folks, we see it at the party levels. There's just not enough interest getting some of the rising stars, if you will, of the parties to come ahead and take that big step. And at some point, in order for the parties to succeed, they're going to have to take these monumental steps. And we might see it maybe in 2 years. We just won't really know until then.
Okay, well, you know, the primary, what we're looking at the ballot, 18 Democrats, I believe 17 on the Republican side of the ballot. So that means that there are a couple of new candidates. Are they viable out of the ones that you know?
I think probably of all of the new candidates, in my own opinion, there's so we're talking about 30 odd candidates, and there's 15 incumbents. Of the remaining, I would say probably 7 are going to give them a run for their money. And of the 7, I think, you know, as Sean said also, probably 1 to 4 would nudge out the others.
Yeah, and I think the Democrats are probably bringing some better quality candidates. I think we have a couple committees to elect, and with that kind of you call it uncertainty, they're having to figure out if they're going to do it or not. But the Democrats really have brought some different kind of candidate to the election, and we'll see. Wait and see, because they're going to have to displace either sitting Democrats or maybe 2 vulnerable or 3 vulnerable Republicans.
So who do you, right now, I mean, who are the standouts among the field of new candidates?
To me, I think you have, realistically, in the party structure, Regine Lee on the Democrat side. On the Republican side, I think you're, with despite the controversy relative to what's happening at GMH, Will Castro, and even much of his controversy from the previous election, still has a little bit of, those two right now, to me, stand out that might have a bit of a shot going into the election.
Okay, real quickly, the congressional race, I wanted to talk about that because you see Tony Vivalta coming in and trying to, he's going to be running against Madeline Bradali, and then former Governor Felix Camacho entering the ring. Your thoughts on the congressional race? To me, that's the one to watch.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the focus for all of our attention going into the next couple of weeks. We haven't had a party primary in the Republican Party in a long, long time, if not ever. The Democrats have had their shares of primaries, but quality of across the 4 is going to make it very interesting.
And what about you, Ron? You were talking earlier about new candidates, viable candidates. Viable?
I think there are plenty of people running for the Congress slot who are very viable, but there are some that are more favored by the public than others, and we'll see. You can never tell.
Right.
But I'll tell you, I think that it's really hard to run for office unless you really decide to run. And that's the thing I encourage every candidate. If you want to run and win, you run to win, and you make it your best shot. And regardless of what people say, and that's part of the hardship of running for office, is you have to stop listening to people who will tell you you'll never do stuff, because otherwise you'll never do stuff actually.
Well, real quickly before we head into the break, earlier today on Twitter we posed this question. The Guam primary election is August 27th. Are you planning on voting Democrat or Republican? Your response is Democrat was 33%, Republican was 15%, and I am not voting was 52%. Do you think that this particular primary election is going to be low voter turnout, or?
I think that just reflects the Twitter demographic. That is, young people vote, express your power, register to vote. See Ms. Pangilinan at the Guam Election Commission and tell her you want to register to vote. And as she'll tell you, you can even register to vote online now.
Yeah, and I don't think the apathy, I mean, it's out there, but on the Twitterverse, it's probably still kind of remains to be seen.
Right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Stay tuned. D16 Tonight continues after this.